Every single day she thinks about you, yet your phone will never glow with her name again. She lingers in silence, watching from the shadows, replaying the memories you once shared, but never daring to step forward. And here's the truth. No one tells you it's not love that keeps her quiet. It's fear. Fear of losing pride, fear of being the one who reaches first, fear of discovering you no longer need her. Most men get trapped right here, lost in confusion, replaying the past, waiting for a message that will never come. But today, I'll give you the truth that flips the entire story, why she disappears, why she watches, and how your silence can become the very power she never expected. Because the moment you understand this, you'll never see her or yourself the same way again. You deserve clarity. You deserve power. You deserve to stop suffering in silence. That starts now. This is Stoic Silence, a place for men done chasing, done doubting, done losing themselves. If you believe knowledge can change your life, like this video and subscribe to Stoic Silence to join a brotherhood that moves with strength, not desperation. Start this journey now. Before we dive in, drop a 1 if you've ever felt this silence breaking you, or a 2 if you're ready to break the cycle for good. I read every comment because your story shapes this mission. Now, let's step into the truth she never wanted you to hear. Welcome to the silent battlefield. 1. The silent war inside her. Every man over 35 who's lived long enough to taste both love and loss must understand this one undeniable truth. The real battle isn't happening in your messages, your memories, or your past. It's happening inside her, every single night, in a silence you will never hear. She looks composed on the surface. She smiles in photos, posts her "I'm doing great" updates, and speaks like she's already stepped into a new chapter. But when the noise fades, when the house goes quiet, when her phone becomes the only light in the room, she isn't scrolling through strangers or searching for distractions. She's scrolling through you. A part of her still remembers exactly what it felt like to be seen by you in a world that rarely slows down long enough for anyone to pay attention. She remembers the comfort of your voice, the steadiness of your presence, the rare safety of being understood without needing to justify who she is. That part of her misses the calm you brought into her chaos. That part of her hopes that maybe the door between you and her hasn't closed completely. She wants to reach out, just once, to see if you'd still meet her halfway. But there's another part, a louder part, that stops her every time. The fear that you might reply with distance. The fear that you might not reply at all. The fear that one message from her would expose everything she tries so hard to hide. The vulnerability, the longing, the truth that she still cares. And to a woman who has built her pride like armor, vulnerability feels like failure. She cannot risk looking needy while you look centered and unshaken. This is the battlefield inside her. A war between memory and ego, between everything she felt with you and everything she must pretend. Now memory pulls her back toward the warmth you gave her, but ego drags her away so she can hold on to the image she has built of herself, strong, in control, untouched by the loss. And here's the twist most men in their late 30s and early 40s never realize. Her struggle isn't truly about you. It's about her relationship with herself, how she wants to be seen, how she wants to feel, how she fears appearing weak in a world that has taught her to be guarded. That's why your silence carries more weight than you imagine. It doesn't just challenge her assumptions, it confronts the story she tells herself about who she is without you. And this is where the next revelation begins, because the moment you stay silent, the entire balance inside her begins to shift in ways she can no longer ignore. 2. The problem most men your age fall into. Here's the truth. No one tells men in their late 30s and early 40s. By the time you reach this stage of life, you're not interested in emotional tug-of-war anymore. You've carried the weight of real responsibility, mortgages, bills, deadlines, maybe a marriage that taught you more than it gave, maybe children who looked to you for strength, maybe a version of life that didn't unfold the way your younger self believed it would. You're not searching for drama or attention. You're searching for clarity, stability, honesty, and peace. You no longer have the time or the energy to waste on mixed signals, silent treatments, and emotional games disguised as modern romance. And that's exactly why her silence doesn't just confuse you, it wounds you. You're not a young man hoping for validation. You're a grown man who gave real time, real effort, real emotional investment. When she suddenly acts like nothing happened, when she laughs online as if the connection you shared was nothing more than a passing moment, it doesn't just feel disrespectful, it feels unreal. It makes you turn inward, questioning not just her intentions, but your own worth. You start asking yourself questions that cut deeper than you expect. Was I not enough? Did any of that matter? Did I imagine the entire connection? This is the dangerous trap so many men your age fall into. You begin replaying every moment, searching for answers she will never give you. And the more you think, the more you spiral into a place where silence feels unbearable. That discomfort pushes you closer to the most destructive move a man in your position can make, reaching out just to soothe the ache. Not because you want her back, but because you want something to relieve the pressure inside your chest. A response, a sign, anything that makes you feel seen again. But the moment you do that, something subtle but powerful shifts. You stop being a man who lives on his own terms and slip into becoming a man who waits for her next notification, her next breadcrumb, her next moment of attention. Your emotional center moves from within you to outside of you, and that is where your strength begins to erode. And this is where the next truth emerges, because the moment you recognize this pattern, you also discover the only path that leads you back to your power. 3. Why her silence is not coldness, it's a shield. The first mistake many men make, especially men who've lived long enough to understand the weight of real commitment, is assuming her silence is a sign of indifference. But silence in her world is rarely coldness, it's protection. And this is where Stoic thinking slices through the emotional fog clouding your vision. Epictetus said, "People are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them." The silence itself isn't the wound, it's the meaning you attach to it. You see distance and think she doesn't care. You see her quiet and assume she's moved on. But inside her, that silence is not an absence of emotion. It's a shield built out of fear, pride, and the longing she refuses to acknowledge. She's not invincible. She's not as composed as she wants the world to believe. She's afraid of reaching out and receiving a cold reply. She's afraid you've grown past her, evolved beyond the version of you she once knew. She's afraid that opening the door, even a little, will unravel the image she keeps clinging to. I'm fine, I'm strong, I don't need him. To her, vulnerability feels like stepping onto thin ice. One wrong move, one unanswered message, one hint that you're no longer affected. And she collapses into a version of herself she's spent years trying to outgrow. So instead of choosing courage, she chooses comfort. Instead of confrontation, she chooses avoidance. Instead of risking her heart, she protects her identity. It's easier for her to maintain the image of strength than to admit she still feels the loss. She hides behind curated photos, behind polished captions, behind the illusion of independence. And because the world often rewards whoever appears less invested, her silence seems powerful. On the surface, she looks steady, she looks in control, she looks like the one who walked away without looking back. Meanwhile, You're cast as the one left behind, the one wondering, the one replaying memories she pretends not to think about. But that's only the surface. Her silence works only if you believe the performance, only if you react to the mask she wears, only if you play the emotional game she's subconsciously relying on, unless you refuse to step into that arena. Because the moment you stop interpreting her silence as rejection and start recognizing it as a shield, you reclaim your ground, and it's at that moment that the entire dynamic begins to shift in a way she never expected. 4. The moment you speak. First, you teach her everything. There's a moment in every separation when a man stands at a crossroads, and most men, especially those who have lived long enough to value peace over chaos, break right here. It usually happens late at night or after a long day, or when a random memory hits harder than expected. You're scrolling, trying to move on with your evening, and then you see it. A story of her laughing in a place you've never been, a picture with new people, a quote about healing or growth that doesn't sound like healing at all. Something twists in your chest, something old and familiar, something you thought you had under control, and in that moment of emotional discomfort, your mind offers you an escape disguised as logic. It's just one message. I just want closure. I just need clarity. I just want to say something mature. But the truth is far more raw. You're not seeking closure. You're seeking relief. You're reaching not because you have something to say, but because you want the pain to stop for a moment. And emotionally, whether you realize it or not, your message carries a meaning you don't intend. It isn't, "Hey, hope you're well." It's, "My need for comfort is stronger than my commitment to myself." And she feels that shift immediately. Women don't miss the words. You and I both know that. They read the energy behind them. The moment she sees your name glow on her screen, she knows exactly what it means. It tells her she doesn't have to miss you because you're still emotionally available. It tells her she doesn't have to face the full weight of losing you because she hasn't actually lost you. And it tells her she doesn't have to regret anything because the door she closed isn't truly closed. You've kept it unlocked from your side. You believe you're being kind, offering maturity and respect. But what she learns is that she can walk away without consequence. You believe you're showing emotional intelligence, but what she experiences is confirmation that no matter how long she stays silent, you will eventually collapse under the pressure and come back. And once someone learns that you will always return, why would they fear losing you? Why would they see your value clearly? Why would they ever confront their own side of the story? This is why silence is not just power. It's clarity. It shows her what you value, and more importantly, it shows you what you value. If you want your silence to hold weight, if you want it to shift the dynamic, if you want it to mean something deeper than a pause, then you must stay silent even when the ache is sharp, even when the loneliness bites, even when everything in you wants to reach for the past. Because the moment you choose discipline over impulse, the next phase of this journey begins, and it's where your strength finally becomes undeniable. 5. Social media is her armor and your illusion. One of the hardest truths for a grown man to accept, especially a man who has lived enough real life to know the difference between substance and show, is that social media is a stage, not a confession. Instagram is not real life, yet it has the power to hijack your real emotions. It can take a single snapshot, a 3-second smile, a carefully chosen quote, and turn it into a story your mind runs with for hours. You see her laughing with friends, traveling to new places, posting affirmations about strength, healing, and moving on. But you don't see the truth behind the lens. Those smiles may last only long enough for the shutter to click, fading the moment the camera drops. Those strong woman quotes might be typed with tears still drying on her face. Those dinners, parties, and nights out could be nothing more than noise, an escape from the guilt of pushing away someone who genuinely cared for her. You're watching a performance, not her reality. You're witnessing her highlight reel, not the dark room she returns to when the night is over. What you don't see is the silence after the celebration ends. You don't see the moment she wipes away her makeup and realizes the attention didn't fill the emptiness. You don't see her lying alone, the glow of her phone reflecting on her face as she scrolls through your name, hesitating, hovering, wanting to reach out, but refusing to press it because pride is louder than pain. She's not healed. She's hiding, and every post is a shield crafted to keep her story intact. I'm fine. I'm better. I've moved on. The danger lies in your reaction. If you react to the performance, you lose to the illusion. You let curated moments dictate your truth. You allow a filtered image, crafted for validation, to rewrite the meaning of what you lived with her. That's when men your age fall into a trap that's deeper than heartbreak, mistaking her public persona for her private reality. But this is exactly where a Stoic man separates himself from the crowd. He doesn't chase shadows. He doesn't battle illusions. He looks at the screen and remembers, none of this is under my control. My reaction is. And then, instead of obsessing over moments designed to manipulate emotion, he closes the app. He logs off from her story and logs back into his own life, because the moment you stop letting illusions shape your heart is the moment the next evolution of your strength begins, and where your power becomes impossible to ignore. 6. The Stoic power. She can't resist disciplined disappearance. Every man reaches a turning point where he discovers that real power doesn't come from getting a reaction out of someone else, but from mastering the reactions within himself. This is where your strength truly begins, not in trying to make her feel regret, not in crafting scenarios to make her miss you, but in refusing to abandon yourself when your emotions try to pull you backward. Stoicism was never about suppressing feeling. It was about refusing to be ruled by it. You're allowed to miss her. You're allowed to feel that familiar ache in your chest when her picture appears on your screen. You're allowed to wish the ending had looked different. None of those emotions make you weak. They make you human. But the moment you let those emotions dictate your actions, that's when you give away the leadership of your own life. You don't need to pretend to be unbreakable. You simply need to choose who's in charge, your temporary feelings or your timeless principles. Your silence is not a punishment aimed at her. It is protection aimed at you. You stay silent because you refuse to negotiate your dignity for a reply. You refuse to trade your self-respect for a moment of emotional relief. You refuse to ask for space in a heart that has already walked away. This is not coldness, it's clarity. You are choosing alignment over impulse, self-worth over validation, and growth over chasing what no longer chooses you. And that's why this kind of silence is not a tactic. It's a philosophy, a declaration, a boundary drawn with steady hands. I will not chase what chooses to leave. I will not beg to be seen. I will not convince anyone to recognize my value. These are not words of bitterness. They are words of self-possession, spoken by a man who has lived enough life to understand that his peace is more precious than keeping a door open that only leads him backward. What she cannot resist, what no woman can resist, isn't your absence. It's the version of you who learned to breathe without her, who stands rooted in purpose instead of longing, who no longer lives as if her perception is your oxygen, when she sees that you're no longer shaped by her silence, that you've stopped orbiting her world, something inside her shifts. Because the man who doesn't abandon himself, the man who chooses discipline over desperation, becomes the man who is unforgettable. And from this point forward, the energy between you begins to change, because the story is no longer about what she thinks of you, but about who you are becoming without her. 7. Building a life she can't reach and you don't depend on. There's a truth most no-contact advice fails to acknowledge, a truth only a man in his late 30s or early 40s can fully understand. Silence alone means nothing. Silence without growth is just an empty room where your thoughts echo louder and your pain lingers longer. But silence paired with evolution, silence fueled by rebuilding, restructuring and reclaiming your direction, becomes power. You're not meant to simply stop texting her and sit in the same life that broke you. You're meant to rise into a new one, and this is where your age becomes your advantage, not your burden. You've lived enough to know what matters, to know the cost of chaos, to know the value of peace. You're no longer interested in emotional theatrics. You want clarity, purpose, and a life that finally feels like it belongs to you. So while you stay silent, you build. You clean up your environment, the home that reflects your state of mind, the schedule that shapes your discipline, the habits that either build your strength or drain it. You rebuild your body, not to impress her, not to spark jealousy, but to respect yourself again when you stand in front of the mirror. You return to your mind, slowing down enough to journal, to observe your thoughts instead of drowning in them, to ask yourself the question most men avoid. Who am I when I'm not chasing anyone? In that answer, you begin to rediscover the man you were always meant to be. You pursue your mission, your career, your business, your craft, your contribution. You work on something bigger than romance, something that makes your life expansive rather than dependent. You reconnect with good men walking the same path, not to complain, not to assign blame, but to sharpen each other into stronger, calmer, more grounded versions of yourselves. This is the brotherhood you didn't know you needed. This is the tribe that reminds you of your worth. And slowly, without forcing anything, something unexpected happens. You stop being the man who used to text her and become the man she can only watch from afar. Your life begins to shift out of her reach, not as a punishment, but as a natural result of your growth. She sees the changes, she senses the distance, she recognizes the rise. And whether she admits it or not, something inside her stings, because you're no longer the man waiting for her attention. You're the man becoming someone she never imagined losing, someone she can observe but no longer influence. And this is precisely where the next transformation begins. 8. Your new mindset. You are no longer waiting. You are leading. There comes a quiet but unmistakable moment in every man's journey, a moment when the shift inside you is so subtle you almost miss it, yet so powerful it changes everything. One day, you open your phone and realize you didn't check whether she watched your story. You scroll through your day and notice you didn't replay old conversations in your head. You catch yourself no longer calculating the odds of her return. And instead of obsessing over whether she'll ever come back, a different question rises from a deeper, steadier place within you. Would the man I'm becoming even want the version of her who played those games? That single question reveals the truth you've been growing toward, often without realizing it. Your silence didn't just make her think, it made you evolve. This is where Stoicism stops being a philosophy you admire and becomes a code you actually live by. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." And you begin to see how true that is, because your thoughts shift in ways that feel like liberation. Before, your mind revolved around uncertainty. Does she miss me? Will she reach out? Did I lose her? These questions kept you emotionally dependent and spiritually stuck, holding on to a story that no longer served who you were becoming. But now, your thoughts take a different shape, calmer, stronger, more grounded. You start asking, am I living by my principles? Am I honoring my time, my body, my mind? Am I building a life I'm proud to wake up in? These questions don't pull you backward. They pull you forward. They reconnect you with the man you were always meant to be, the man who leads instead of waits, the man who builds instead of begs, the man who sets the tone of his life instead of reacting to the silence of another. This is when her silence stops feeling like rejection and starts feeling like redirection. You begin to see that her absence wasn't a loss. It was a clearing, a space for you to rebuild, reclaim, and realign your life with a standard you may have forgotten. She had her chance in your story. She had her chapter, her influence, her moment. But stories evolve, men rise, and chapters end long before a book is finished. Now, the pages are turning again, not because she came back, but because you moved forward. And that is the moment your mindset changes entirely. You are no longer waiting for her to reappear. You are leading your life into a chapter she may never get to read, unless she's watching from a distance, realizing too late that the man she once knew has become someone she can no longer reach. 9. The resolution. She's waiting, but you must stay silent. Here's the paradox most men never see clearly until they finally step into their strength. She is waiting, but not in the way your heart once hoped. She's waiting to see if you're still the man she can pull back with a single post, a single story, a single breadcrumb of attention. She's waiting to see if your emotions still belong to her, if time will soften you, weaken you, or make you reachable again. She's waiting to see if her silence still has power over you, if the old version of you is still alive somewhere beneath the discipline you're building now. But this time, you're not that man anymore. You're no longer reachable in the old ways. Not because you don't feel, but because you've learned to feel without collapsing. Your silence now isn't a tactic to win her back. Your silence is the path you take to win yourself back. That's the shift that changes everything. A man who can miss her, truly miss her, and still not betray himself becomes a different kind of presence in the world. A man who can feel the pull of emotion and still choose principle over impulse becomes rare. A man who walks forward with calm, steady steps instead of running backward for one last chance becomes unforgettable. That man is not desperate. He is not waiting. He is not chasing. He is leading. And leadership, quiet, grounded, disciplined leadership, is the one energy she cannot resist. Because it reveals what women often don't expect from men they once hurt: the ability to evolve without resentment, the strength to stay centered without clinging, the courage to hold a boundary without needing applause. When you reach this place, you stop trying to disrupt her silence and start building a life that stands on its own foundation. You become a man who is defined not by who stays or leaves, but by the standards he sets for himself. And if one day she realizes what she lost, if one day her pride finally cracks under the weight of regret, you won't need revenge or dramatic confrontations. You won't need long speeches or emotional explanations. Your life, your growth, your discipline, your peace will already be the answer. Your silence will already have spoken the truth she was never ready to hear, that you became the man she didn't expect, the man she couldn't control, and the man she never imagined losing. And that is where your story truly begins. Men, let me speak to you as a strategist, not a storyteller. Everything you've walked through in this journey, the silent war inside her, the trap men your age fall into, the shield behind her silence, the danger of reaching out first, the illusion of social media, the power of disciplined disappearance, the work of rebuilding, and the mindset shift. leads to one truth. Your real opponent was never her. It was the version of you that reacted instead of led. Her silence is about her fear, her pride, her self-image. Your silence must be about your discipline, your dignity, your direction. You've learned that reaching out doesn't bring closure. It teaches her you can be pulled back at any moment. You've learned that social media is a performance, not a confession. And you've learned that silence without growth is just waiting, but silence with growth becomes power. So let me ask you honestly, do you recognize these signs in your own story? Have you felt this shift inside you yet? The one where longing becomes clarity and silence becomes strength? If this message hit home, if it brought you even one step closer to the man you want to be, then you're exactly where you need to be. Like the video, subscribe to Stoic Silence, and stay with this brotherhood that's committed to rebuilding from the ground up. Drop your thoughts or your story in the comments. Tell me what part of this journey you're standing in right now, and let that be the first step toward reclaiming your direction. Your transformation doesn't start when she comes back. It starts when you do. Let's walk this path together. The next chapter begins with you.